another episode on LesBcookin808. Today we're gonna make beef stew. So with beef stew, in the stores you notice that they already have beef stew meat that's already cut. I just go ahead and purchase the cheapest meat. So this was the cheapest meat on sale. And the reason I do that is because you're gonna basically boil and cook the crap out of the meat, so eventually it'll soften. People do make it in the Instapots and pressure cookers. It does take a lot less time to make it, but my pressure cooker broke, so we're gonna make it the old school style on the stove. And we're gonna start with the meat. Just gonna cut your meat, take your meat and cut it into like manageable pieces. So this is beef stew. It's okay to go ahead and cut these up into chunks. I just cut them in strips and then just put them into cubes. So like that. Again, there's a meat that you can just buy the stew meat already cut, but I just buy whatever meat that is cheap and on sale. I've made beef stew with short rib meat. I've also made beef stew with like a mixture of pork meat and beef meat, which I thought was actually one of the better tasting stews. So it's just cut into chunks, just like that. Put some oil on in it, just a little bit. We're gonna add the beef to it. I used about almost 3 pounds of beef here. So I just go ahead and braise it. We're gonna add some garlic and salt, pepper. Go ahead and season it. It's okay to season it heavy. Okay. And then I'm going to add the garlic. Okay, so the meat's braising. It's on a medium high. We're going to add some smashed garlic. Had about 5 cloves of this. I'm going to go ahead and add it and mix it around again. We're just braising it. Want to get some good coloring so it's juicy. We already added pepper and salt to this. Okay, so we're just gonna let it braise, mix it around, make sure it doesn't get stuck or anything. Okay, so we got some round onion, went ahead and quartered it, and then we're gonna peel the carrots. So I like to just get a peeler and cut and just start peeling one way, and then to make it easier to get the top, just flip it over. Start peeling the other way. Okay, one more. The amount of carrot is up to you, how big of a pot of stew you're going to use. Carrot for me, I think, brings the sweetness to the stew, and it kind of balances off the tartness of the tomato sauce. So to my 3 pounds of beef that I have, I am using 3 healthy size carrots. Okay, and because it is a stew, chunks is okay. So chunk, chunk, chunk. I just kind of like to crisscross them. Whatever way you want to do it is totally fine. Just chunk it up. Make sure not to cut yourself. Again, the amount of carrot is totally up to you. It is a root, so it's going to take a while for it to cook. Okay, so at this point, the meat has been braising for about 5 to 8 minutes. Allowed it to brown and semi-cook through. People cook beef stew differently. They have their way. It's basically just throwing everything into a pot. But at this time, I like to add the onion. Just give the time for the onion to break down, flavor the meat. And later on, when we add the water, it's going to flavor the broth. And then because carrot again is a root, it takes longer to cook. I like to put this in at the same time. The thing about carrot is like you can cook them, and it pretty much keeps its shape. So by the time that you're adding the potato and everything, it's going to be like a perfect consistency. It's not crunchy hard, but it's not like mushy soft. So I like to add it, mix it. I'll cook this for like another 5 minutes, and then we can start adding the water into the pot, which is going to make the broth for the stew. Okay, so we went ahead and put water into the pot. As you can see, it's kind of just a little above the ingredients. The amount of water is up to you. Make sure it doesn't overboil. You're gonna go ahead and boil this. I'm not sure at the time. Basically until it's soft. In a pressure cooker, you just put it like on highest timer, and then let it go, and it's nice and soft. So I would just say check it like in an hour and see how soft it is. That should be fine. So we'll come back and check it in an hour. So while you're waiting for your beef to boil, your stew to boil, I went ahead and got some celery, washed them off. For this size pot of stew, I went ahead and got just 3 stalks of celery. Cut the top off, wash them. You can cut them any way you want. It's a stew. Chunk it up if you want. Again, I like to make mine a little bit prettier, so cut it on a bias, so it kind of just looks like this. But it's up to you. You can totally just go ahead and cut it in chunks. You don't even have to string this. It's a stew. You don't have to string it. So, and this is one of the last ingredients that's going to go in the pot, because it takes doesn't take that much time to cook. So again, you can cut it in chunks. I like to cut it on a bias, about maybe I don't know, is it 1/4 inch thick or so. Doesn't take too long to cook. This is the last, kind of like the last ingredient that's going to go in. So when it's boiling, you want to make sure you're covering it, and just make sure it doesn't boil over. If it is, just turn it down a little bit. But you just want to keep this constant, rapid boil. Okay, so I went ahead and I cut up some potatoes. Got like 4 potatoes. It's a stew. So you can, cut it up in your chunks. And then, because I'm not going to use it and to prevent it from turning brown, I went ahead and put water. And I'm going to actually add the water and all the potatoes to this later on. And whatever potato that came out of the starch is actually going to help thicken part of the stew. So, okay, so it's been boiling for about an hour. You can notice that the stock kind of reduced. If you want more gravy, you can add more water to it. So you can add... to make it to that tomatoey type of stew, you add tomato sauce. So I'm just going to add some tomato sauce, and at this point we can go ahead and add the potatoes that's been soaking in that water, so it gets all that starch to go back in. And then we're going to just go ahead and stir this up, stir it up, and then adjust the seasoning. Okay, so you can go ahead and taste it at this point. So I've had enough salt in it. Just gonna add a little bit more pepper. So we're gonna let the potatoes cook till they're about translucent, not cooked all the way through, because then it starts to fall apart. And then we'll be back. And after you season it, you want to go ahead when the oil settles, the gunk and all the oil, you're just gonna go ahead and skim it. We don't want an oily stew. Just gonna skim it. Run your ladle around it. You get as much oil as you can. Again, the stew, so you're not going to get a whole lot off. Then we're going to go ahead and just cover it. Cook it for like maybe 15 minutes till the potato gets a little soft. And we can go ahead and just kind of turn it down to like between a 3 and a 4. Okay, so at this point, the potatoes are about, I'd say, like halfway cooked, and so we can go ahead and add our celery to this and drain the water out. Okay, so we add our celery. The celery is not going to take that long to cook. We just mix it in. So at this point, you could probably eat it like this. It's called Hawaiian stew. It's waterier, but we're gonna make beef stew where it's thickened, so we're gonna thicken that in a bit. Some people make poi stew, and they just basically put some poi in to thicken it, but we're gonna use flour. As you taste the broth, if it's tart or tomatoey, acidic, you can just put some sugar to kind of offset it. Like put some sugar little by little, mix it in. I'll put like a tablespoon at a time, and then just adjust it to your liking. Okay, so the potatoes cooked through. I brought it up to a rolling boil because here is where we're gonna go ahead and thicken it. So I went ahead and made a flour and water slurry. I went ahead and whisked it. Okay, so we're thickening it with flour and water. We don't want to use cornstarch. Remember, cornstarch makes things jelly. We want to make a stew creamy, so we're going to use a flour slurry. And again, to make sure that it's not a lumpy stew, we're going to use the strainer. So I'm going to hold the strainer above, and then I'm going to pour in the flour mixture slowly, and I'm going to start stirring. The heat will help to thicken up the stew. Okay, so I only have one hand, so I'm gonna just do it and then come back and record. Okay, so since I only have my 2 hands to do this, I couldn't hold the bowl and pour the flour through the strainer and mix at the same time. So I went ahead and did that, and then it's really to the consistency you like. Again, you wanna rest in between when you're pouring and keep mixing, because the heat is what's gonna thicken the stew. And then you want to keep mixing to make sure that the flour cooks soft, so it doesn't taste floury. Okay, so it's the same thickening process as when we made the corn chowder, if you go back to that video. So it's a nice stew consistency, something easy for the rice, the sauce to grab onto the rice. Okay, and then after it thickens, you want to go ahead, because you added, a slurry to it, it's going to adjust the flavor again. So you want to check for flavor consistency, if there's enough salt, if it's too acidic, you want to go ahead and add a little bit of sugar if you like. So let's go ahead and try this. Okay, it did have to put a little bit of salt, but other than that, the flavors are on point. We can go ahead and turn it down. Really is to your liking, but that's basically the gist of making beef stew. And at this point, it's done. You can go ahead and turn it off and then serve it over rice.